Hi, welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Burney. A catalyst is defined as a person or thing that precipitates an event. A catalyst is something that it participates in a reaction but does not get consumed in the reaction. There's a heart behind this podcast for, people with aspirations. There's a heart behind this podcast for motivated people that want to make a difference, that have a bias for action, that really truly want to be a catalyst in the environment around them, both professionally and personally, in their homes, in their workplace, and beyond. So welcome to this podcast. I really hope you're enjoying the series that we're in. Welcome to this episode, and let's dive right in. Wheels up. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. We continue on in the Against All Odds series, and today I have Joe Lau with me. Joe is a self-made entrepreneur. He's founded 6 companies and has had the benefit of experiencing the sale of a few of those and moving forward in his journey and career as an entrepreneur. He is a quality of life coach. And when we connected recently, I was just, I know I got just the tip of the iceberg of Joe's story. And I'm super excited to have you on today, Joe, to kind of unpack your story, hear more about how the theme of Against All Odds and kind of being in the face of adversity ties into your story and your success. And really, I think even ties in to your platform now as your quality of life coach, as, doing your one-on-one. I don't want to steal too much of your story, but I just really enjoyed doing, some research and getting to know you, and certainly glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Hunter. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. So as we get started, I just really want to kind of set the foundation for your story, your background. We can get as, deep or specific into the kind of that theme of Against All Odds, but that can come. I really just wanted to start with, setting the tone for your story and your, being an immigrant and things like that and how that ties in. If you can just kind of give us that summary, we'll get going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, excuse me. So I came here for college and I'm Chinese, right? And I'm from Hong Kong. Of course, I have to study something that's safe, that's math and science related and makes money because it's just how Chinese are culture, right? So of course I picked computer engineering, and at that time it was one of those like emerging major that they guarantee you, okay, you do this major, you're gonna make high 5-figure right after you graduated. I'm like, okay, I'm in, sign me in. And of course it's not gonna be turns out like that. So right before we graduated, the market tanked in the computer industry, then I couldn't find a job. So lucky enough that before I graduated, that's when my first business opportunity kind of fell in my lap with my college buddy, my best friend then. And we started this company that we designed a POS system for restaurants. So it was all exciting. And this is before we even have like touchscreen monitor. Like I remember that we would like buy a monitor, we'll rig it to a point and make it touch screen, and then we'll resell it. So it was a lot of fun. And then that business quickly failed because neither of us knew anything about business. I mean, profit-wise, we did really well, but we just didn't know anything about what it takes to be in business. Not so much the business idea itself. So the business idea works really well. We were able to, scale it to 6-figure almost like instantly within just a few months. But the fact that we didn't know who we are as a person, what we really want to thrive for as an individual, the partnership fall apart. And there was a time that it was my first bottom, right, that I hit. Because I tell you, Hunter, a lot of people that are on the fence to be an entrepreneur because they have this idea in their head that, if I ever gonna step to the other side to become an entrepreneur, I may be amazing, right? Guess what, Hunter? I didn't have that fantasy. I failed the first time, so I suck. So I could not fantasize how great I will be if I ever become one or start taking action. My first business failed, like flat. I lost my best friend. I lost direction. I lost a sense of what can I do? What can I not do? And that was really how I would consider that's the really beginning of the of my entrepreneur journey is to dig myself out of the hole.
Wow. Yeah, but I think one thing that resonates as you describe that is you could tell you had a good idea, right? And you could see the need in the market and you just took action. I mean, it sounds like you learned some stuff the hard way and it wasn't all a success, but at the same time, I think the balance of that is, you were able to keep things in perspective and figure out that, yeah, maybe that was just the price, the price of admission, or, just kind of the price of learning on the front end. And just based on what I know now and what we'll talk about here, obviously you were able to kind of flip that around and use that as fuel. So can you just kind of tell us what the next step in the journey looked like and how you recovered from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So from that point, I have to really dig deep and ask myself, do I want to go for a 9 to 5 job? Is it it? Is it just being busy and work for someone else is the rest of my life? And I realized that really, it's really not the case, because honestly, after that failure with also the market tank, I couldn't find a job based on my engineering degree. So I had to go back to work as a restaurant, as a waiter, really. And eat my own humble pie. It's because I feel like, man, I'm really educated. How could I be working in a restaurant? But that's the only thing I knew how to make money, because that's what I did as a student to support myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to put my head down, work as a restaurant waiter. You know how restaurant life is. It's 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's 72 hours. It's crazy life, right? You basically have no life.
Mm-hmm.
So, after I get really sick, that's another story. Then I realized that, when I went back when I went back to work after, get out of hospital from this thing I had, and I realized that, wow, this can be it. I mean, I got to be able to do something better than this for my life. That's when things start to change around a little bit. Then I start to pay attention to like who is successful around me, right? Because I heard the saying all the time that you're the net of your net worth is the 5 people around you, right? And the 5 people around me is the other waiter.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too ambitious. So I start thinking through like literally like everything. And back in the day, we talk about like in the 2000, there's no Facebook, right? There's no social media. So I'm like, who do I really know that, done better than I did? So I found out there's one of my friend, she was in Hong Kong at the time. She was a self-made entrepreneur. So I kind of reached out to her and like, how did you do that? And she told me that, oh, read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, she said it in Chinese, right?
Right.
she read this in the Chinese version. I'm like, huh? And I wasn't a big reader, honestly. I wasn't a big reader. And I was like, what? How's it going to help me? I was like, no, seriously, read that book. I was like, okay. This is literally when Rich Dad Poor Dad just starting. This is around 2002, that period of time. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So I read that book during my break in the restaurant. Man, I have never read that fast before. I didn't know I had that in me. And I finished that book within just about a week. I was like, wow, I'm hooked. And that book really opened my eyes up to like what life could be with the right guidance. So starting to realize that, okay, if I have the right mentor, maybe that's a possibility. So that's when I started really digging deeper. And long story short, at that time, my girlfriend, now my wife, we've been together for a long time. It's amazing. And she told me this internet commercial. I'm not going to name the company name. So it's this infomercial that you watch, 12 o'clock at night. And it's advertised that you buy this thing for like $70 and, you can make a living online. And she tell me, so let's say my girlfriend told me, you should do this. I'm like, dude, selling on internet is a hobby, dude. Right? This is 2003 time. This is not a real thing. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. I'm looking into it. And as I bought the program. So as I dig deep on the program, just a week after I finished the program, then the program the program literally asked like, okay, you want to have a website? So you need to sell online, right? You need to pay us $6,000. I'm like, what? I don't have the $6,000. And this feels like kind of feel like a scam, right? So I quickly, return it. But then that moment it hit me. In my mind, I feel like, wow, if someone would have spent that much money to produce an infomercial and buy TV time to borderline scam people, it turns out, Hunter, few weeks later, FTC shut them down. It was a scam.
Oh,
It really was a legitimate scam.
wow.
So at that moment, I felt like, if someone would spend so much money on scamming people, what the real thing could be. That's when I really dig deep to digital marketing, SEO. Again, this is 2003. Selling online, digital marketing, these phases doesn't exist in anywhere. It's a hobby. It's kind of like the dark web kind of deal. You know what I mean? If you tell people you do that for a living, they'll be like, okay, all right, what's your real job, right?
Right.
That's that time. So that's when I had my first success. I had my first e-commerce business that sells self-defense products. And how did I come about that? Is that, I want to sell something that I can relate it to, since I really like martial art. So that's how it all come about. And I dig deep on the knowledge to be a digital marketer. So that's when I had my first success for my first real successful business.
Wow. That's a cool story. So, and based on what you said there, that Rich Dad Poor Dad book was a bit of a catalyst for reshaping your mind. And I think, I still follow Robert Kiyosaki, and he's got a cool, radio show on YouTube and stuff. But I think, based on the context of that book and what you're sharing about your story, and what resonated with me when I read that book is it takes that traditional, you got to follow the system, you got to follow the path mindset, and kind of flips it on its head, and that there are other ways to be successful, and the system has value in the larger economy for a reason. But if you're wired differently, like an entrepreneur, then you're not going to be satisfied being a part of that system. You're not going to make the money you want to make being a part of that system, and you really have to see things differently. So it sounded like, because what you're saying is like you followed the kind of predetermined path almost of getting that computer engineering degree and going down that road, but then you read this book, and it kind of helped accelerate and probably solidify some of your aspirations and your outlook. Is that a fair kind of summary there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because right after that book, right, you cannot get into the rabbit hole. Then he had, I think, whether his second book or third book is called the Four Quadrant. Right? You have the employee, then you have the self-employed, then you have the business, then you have the investor. So I'm like, oh, okay, I definitely don't want to be employed, because I'm employed right now and it's 12 hours a day, and that's not what I wanted to be. And then, just through conversation with some of my friend that did get an engineering job, it's also 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Grinding it. It's just part of it, right? It's not right or wrong. Right. It's all about, do you know this is what for you? And sometimes when you're starting out a career, that's necessary. Even though when you do decide to become an entrepreneur, it's still necessary, because that's what it takes to be a specialist, right? And then we all heard the saying that no matter what you do, you want to spend the 10,000 hours, right? I calculate it out. If you grind it, about 8 hours a day, at the very least, it takes about 2.5 years. Yeah. Just to figure it out, to be a specialist. So everybody have to pay to do, and so do I. But yeah, your assessment is absolutely correct. When I realized that there's actually 4 quadrant, there's 4 type of people exist in the world. I don't know which one I'll end up to be. I know which one I don't want to be. I definitely don't want to be just an employee. I mean, for myself, because I know what I want to achieve.
Yeah. Wow. So you, just to kind of get back on track here, maybe with the story, you had that first e-commerce business success, which naturally, probably has some confidence and having that maybe a bigger portfolio financially, being able to kind of look at what's next and kind of plan the road ahead. What did the next step in the journey look like for you? Because I know we don't necessarily have to break down all 6 companies, but I just think it's cool to kind of hear that serial entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is so now that I have a business, well, I wouldn't even call it business, right? Because it was just me really for the longest time. So I was a solopreneur. So I was self-employed, consider, right? And I never really have any formal training as an individual on how to scale a business, because my degree is engineering. Right? You may take 1 or 2 business classes that you fell asleep, right? Especially accounting 101. Yeah. And now I wish I paid more attention, because it's important. But anyway, so I didn't have any formal training. I did not know how to scale. I was bottleneck, honestly, Hunter. I have no idea how to scale a business. So I was really considering go back for MBA, but then I didn't want to commit to the 2.5 years of time.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, I discovered that I can actually buy a franchise. What's better to learn how to scale any businesses than buy a fastest growing franchise?
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a tax service franchise, which is I know nothing about tax, right? Like filing tax report. I know how to file my own tax, but I have nothing. I mean, I have no idea. I have no interest in the business, but I want to learn the system on scale. And then, so that was my third business, and I learned it, and they taught me really well, and I learned the system. And that's when I started to be fascinated about procedures, system, process, and protocol, and SOP, which was a really solid foundation for me to become a better entrepreneur down the road. But I tell you, the second lessons I learned from this business is not only you need to learn about system. The second is you have to align your value for who you are to be able to sleep at night and have longevity as an entrepreneur. Because I share with you, Hunter, that business, I was able to 4 times my investment in just within 9 months. So that was amazing for myself, right?
Yeah.
But then I realized that the business model and the way they target the business audience is not who I want to be. It's not the value that I share. So I decided to get out of the business just within the first year.
Mm-hmm.
So the future is bright if I continue to do that. But I decided, you know what, this is money is great, but this just doesn't align for who I am. So I decided to walk away from that. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really started to become a better person through this entrepreneurial experience of understanding who I am for this business that I have to go through. Because what businesses is nothing but people. Mm-hmm. It really is. No matter what kind of business you are in, you have customer. There you go. There's a human being buying on the other side of the screen. If we talk about e-commerce, right? Mm-hmm. You have employees that help you. Your business is nothing but your employee effort, right? So entrepreneurship to me is nothing but a self-growth journey for starting and full success or failure in business in general. So I learned so much about myself at that point. So that kind of propelled me for my 4th, 5th, and 6th, and later on adventure after that particular business opportunity.
Thank you for being a part of this journey. Definitely subscribe, like, check out Be a Catalyst on Instagram and on Twitter. Also, don't forget to check out the YouTube channel where you'll find videos in addition to the Catalyst podcast recordings that give a little bit more context around my heart for training, my heart for seeing early to middle managers and first-time leaders really thrive and be a catalyst in the organization that they're in the project that they are after, everything that goes along with that. So thank you for being a part of this. Tune in for the next episode, and remember, be you, be confident, be a catalyst.